Good morning, if you can call it that. It's 12:08 here in Sydney. We're about to start the first go of a dual stream between myself, JannLee, and Atrophied. We're going to play a first hour of 3+0 and a second hour of 1+0. So the first hour starts ticking now. So yeah, we hope you enjoy the stream. You can see the link to Atrophied's stream, or the link to Atrophied's stream at the bottom of my note. So yeah, let's go. Alright, I'm going to start with d4, just something a bit different. I think Atrophied's going to expect me to play probably more e4. So yeah, I mean, I'll probably go in today, probably playing a few different openings in the 3+0 session. Hopefully we get some more creative opportunities and more opportunities to comment. Here we go. Alright, so I'll say I'm out of any book knowledge here already. Black's now traded a knight there and is going to try to come in on e4. I can defend with bishop d3 and he's going to come in with d5. So I'm just seeing if there's other ways I can continue before heading down that path. I think that's fine. So he's opted to play knight f5 to hit d4. I think I just need to defend against that. We'll keep it simple. One of the reasons why he might have opted to play knight f5 before making the capture is the knight on f5 provides defense to g7, because knight at h5 is a possibility. And here he's just allowed me to take the bishop on e4 and lose a pawn. I assume he's looking for some compensation. I'm just going to avoid it for the time being. We'll allow a few trades, but it's worthwhile having this attack here, just tie down this knight. Alright, this sacrifice is a possibility. I now need to consider if knight at f6 is a good option. Ooh, now this is quite dangerous for black. Queen takes e7 looks quite strong. We'll need to evaluate if that's actually mating. I think it's just short at the moment. I'll place the check first. The key is to block off c6 here, so now this will mate. A better move may have been pawn at b5, which still lets the king move out to c6. Alright, I'm going to try something a little different. I'm actually going to play a Sicilian defense. And I don't recommend the Sicilian defense, largely because you get a weakness here on c7. If you are going to try it, it's about looking out for this first and avoiding any issues on this this square. So I'm going to opt to play a6 to keep the knight out of b5. And I don't normally play Sicilian, so I'll say I'm already out of familiar territory. So it's good that it's good to get both of us into unfamiliar territory pretty early if we can. It'll make the games more interesting. Yeah, I'm going to opt to take this. And knight at d5 really has two purposes: defend e6 and also hit f5. Look from here, I'm just happy to castle here. I have a safe king. If he wants to capture the pawn, he can. I may get something back with the bishop capturing c3, and then I'll have something on e4. But this way, my king's already quite safe over here, and then I'll be able to consolidate in the center. Now, interestingly, he's already opted to put a bishop here, give up the queen to cover d2. And yeah, also interesting is me even pausing to think if I should take the queen or not. It's fine. Knight takes d3, bishop takes d3, grab a queen. Queen at b2 is okay. He'll castle and get to safety, and I just need to be mindful if a pawn and a queen is going to be enough to penetrate his position. So I'm actually going to opt to possibly leave the queen. In fact, I will. And it's not to say that taking the queen is bad. Taking the queen should be fine, but this just keeps a little more tension in the position. If I take the queen now, I can capture the pawn on c3 with the knight. I'm expecting him to capture my knight, and maybe swing the queen over to the king side. But this way, both of us will have minor pieces. This is interesting. He's still not even moved his queen. So I'm defending g7 and also attacking c3. I think now's a good time to capture the queen. Grab d4 because something's going to fall on d2 or c3. It's just a matter of which way. Alright, I've got to watch the clock now. Okay, I'm going to take this one. And we're running very low on time now. Gotta be careful I'm not getting mated as well. Although I am, I'll just let that slip. So that was an interesting game. I think could have taken the queen perhaps a little earlier. Alright, looks like Atrophied has a stream issue, so we're going to have a pause there. So while we're pausing, let's have a look at that game a little further. I mean, I've just blundered at the end here. I don't think knight takes f2 is necessarily accurate. I mean, one of the things I was considering in this position is actually getting the queen up to a1. But bishop at b1 probably puts that out. G takes h6 was an issue, is a possibility, but there's bishop takes e4. So I was trying to take on f2 to kind of get something in return for the knight, but yeah, I've just completely missed the two knights coming in here. In fact, even back here, there's probably a stronger move. Oh, we're back on. Okay, so let's have a go of f4. So we're 1-1 at the moment. Okay, we've got a few comments. I'm going to have a look. Alright, Aidan Jones, it's always cool to see another Australian in these kinds of streams. Good on you, mate. Alright. So I'll tell you already, first move, f4, I seldom play this, so I'm out of book already. Someone's asked a score. The score's just 1-1 all at the moment. Right, so here in this position, we don't have much engagement of pawns in the centre. White has a long diagonal and potential here. Black should probably move the bishop. It's just a liability at the moment. I'm just going to cover c2. But yeah, play proceeds slowly here at the moment. We don't have a whole lot of trades happening immediately. Both sides have time to consolidate. So at the moment, that's probably my least useless piece. I need to think about how I can get that one active. So we'll cover off this pawn first. Knight d2 has two purposes, one defending e3 but also opening up the bishop. You can't play knight h5 because of bishop takes h5, bishop takes h5, queen takes g7. So I'm going to kick this knight and make room for my own knight to move here. Do some slow strategic movement. I prefer to have more of my pieces on the king side. So he's allowed knight takes a5. I think I'm going to take it because I've got knight takes c6 to follow. Perhaps he's just missed it when he's brought the knight back there. The queen's not defending this. Alright, I'm going to open fire on his king now because I've got these pieces on the king's side, which will make it a little bit awkward for him. Knight at h6 mate has to be attended to. Now he's got to be careful. h7 is a mate threat, in fact, because he can't move the king back because of pawn at h7, and then if he moves forward, f5 is going to mate him instead. Alright, so we're at 2-1. Alright, not sure what's happening here, if he just has stream issues. I think Atrophied's having some stream issues. So while he's got stream issues, I'll have a look at this game. So let's retrace how this game went. When it started with f4, a little bit unorthodox. I don't think anything's really wrong with it. Maybe in Bughouse it's a bit more of an issue because you can get a pawn from the partner's board to play pawn at f2. But in Crazyhouse, I mean, even if he gets a knight here, there's still no pawn in hand, so you've got plenty of time to get your pieces out. So I don't think you can just straight up refute f4. It's just a bit different. Um, so I'll play that here just to prevent e5 immediately. And then clearly with the pawns here, I'm trying to get my bishop out this way. Yeah, here I'm not sure how white should develop, but I was considering something like d3, knight d2. But you just have to be wary of your e3 pawn sometimes in these sorts of Dutch positions. And after he's hit on b4, it's just convenient to defend. But getting to the part of the game that's a bit sharper. I think here he probably shouldn't let go of this pawn. Maybe he should just defend it. My plan was just to either break with e5 or f5. Probably more f5. I mean, this knight could always bounce in there. That was the idea of playing e4 first. But yeah, I don't think this is necessarily right, because now I get an extra pawn, and while the position was relatively mild before then, I mean, things can open up quickly on this diagonal with pawns coming in here. So it's probably a little bit loose to allow that. And then here, I mean, it's so significant. I'm not too concerned about losing a little bit of material on the queen side, because this is just so strong on the king. Now from here he does have to cover h6 somehow. I think h6 is the move, but maybe already here it's very difficult to hold. h7 is a threat that's going to mate, so maybe he could have played bishop g6. But even then, bishop g6 is met with queen takes g6, and then after f takes g6, pawn at h7, knight at g5. It doesn't matter if the king runs to f7 or h7, that'll be mated as well. So already I think this position is very difficult for black to defend. There's other things to worry about, like bishop takes f8, let's check. So yeah, I think once white gets bishop takes g7 in, the imbalance in king safety is probably a little bit too large. All right, while we're still waiting, I'll go back to a previous game as well. Let's have a look at this. We'll flip the board. So yeah, this game I played a Sicilian. I also don't normally play this. There's a weakness on c7 to account for. I think both sides have a playable position here. I opted to sacrifice the knight. Didn't have to. Could have easily played knight c6. That's also not a bad move. But what I got out of this was also not bad. I think what was interesting here is white just opted to give up the queen, and here I could do that. I mean, most players would just capture, really. It's fine too. I think you could capture and develop the knight to c6. But you just be aware that white will then have a pawn, two knights and a bishop. After castling, it's actually not so easy to penetrate the white king, and the minor pieces may actually be okay. So it's an interesting concept in Crazyhouse. You can be a little bit more loose with material. When I say a little bit more loose, you can sacrifice a queen positionally, and a little bit out of fun, but also a little bit out of interest. I've elected not to capture that queen. Yeah, pawn at h6. Yeah, I'm not sure if I should just capture this and let me see. I think Yeah, maybe g takes h6. Bishop g5 is maybe an interesting option. Basically, if you recapture, then black has a lot of pressure on d2. But white doesn't have to do that. White can just put an extra bishop on to defend. This queen's always going to be hanging. I think at some stage black just captures it and accepts that he's just a bit ahead on material. So the way the game went, I actually went looking for something on c3 instead, but it probably leaves g7 uncovered. So you could play queen at c3 here. That more or less forces king e2 because you can't leave this rook hanging. But after this move, I didn't see a clear continuation. I suppose. Yeah. It's just a position to play here. I mean, it feels like black should have a large edge, but there's no actual decisive win just yet. Maybe the right move is something like bishop at c4. And the idea of this is you can have queen takes c2 as a threat. So if this is captured, you can take here. I think black's making some progress now. And that defends the knight nicely. So maybe this is a better continuation, and that's just straightforward play, you know. Capture the queen, ensure the king can't castle so that it's still in the middle, and you can't expect to blow up white straight away, but maybe that's a sensible way in. But as the game went, played a check here. And I think this is probably worse than the queen at c3 option because the king's just a bit safer now. And then here I probably made an error in judgment where, well, I was running a little bit lower in time and then trying to get something back for this knight, but I just simply allowed mate. I kind of forgot I couldn't take this. It's just very loose. So I consider that a very large blunder on my part. But yeah, the knight's still young, so I'm still human. I'm still waiting for Atrophied to return. So let's keep going with some of the prior games. So this was the first match, in case you've just joined and you've missed. I elected to play d4. I'm normally playing e4, so I'm just doing different things to normal. This is interesting. Knight d5. It's playable. I think maybe in 1-0 people use it more often to try to grab this bishop. People moving too fast. But it's nothing to be concerned about. Black doesn't have anything in hand to place here just yet. And then you'll hit e4 with tempo. But then black's fine. I mean, black gets some pressure on e4. And here, I've opted not to take e4. I mean, if you take e4, the issue is you're getting hit here, and then this opens up all the lines on d4. You can play knight at h5 if you want like a bishop at f6 perhaps. Maybe it's fine, maybe it's playable. I envisage something like this might occur where black just claims a lot of minor pieces and white's not actually mating black just yet. That's a game in itself. But yeah, if not that, then white stands to lose a bit of material here. So I opted for a more quiet approach. And here I made the point that if knight at f5 is probably to give a bit of cover here, it also blocks off this line. There's a traditional kind of attack here where you have this sort of position, you know, a play move like Queen e7. This sort of a attack is very classical on the king side. The rook's tied down and can't defend this, and these are nice inroads for white. So, you know, black still had bishop at e4 here, and it's probably fine. But I think rather than trade straight into it, Atrophied decided he'd put the knight on f5 first to defend against that. It also hits d4, so I've defended that there. He's traded off a bishop. And here's interesting, I mean, he's kind of offered a pawn here, which may be alright to capture. The idea is black gets bishop at d5 in. And then you got to think where to put the queen. So you need to be careful here. If you're going to put the queen on f4, you got to watch out for knight at d3. You probably go back to e2. Let me just have a look at what's going on. Okay. Okay, looks like Atrophied's back up, so I'm gonna stop what I'm doing. Okay, we're back up. All right. Okay, guys, we're back online. I think Atrophied was trying some new streaming software. Maybe it's not the ideal time to try it when we're trying to launch our first dual stream, but he's using his old software now, so hopefully we're good. So I'm going with a perk King's Indian type setup this time around. I also normally don't do this, but I'm trying some openings I don't normally try in the 3-0 section, so we get some more unfamiliar positions and more interesting games to comment on. That's what it's all about. So here I've just been looking at good development. I'm going to make a play in the middle on d4. I've got an option here. I can either play e5 or pawn at e5 perhaps. There's knight at e6. Whatever I'm doing, I'm going to try to hit the queen and the bishop. I'm actually going to opt for knight at e6. If pawn at e5, you can play bishop takes e5, d takes e5, queen takes e5, and he's just kind of picking off a pawn. I know I've sacrificed a piece for this, but he'll need to look out for things on this diagonal after the bishop's captured. And he'll have knight at g5, so he's okay. I'm actually going to choose to opt to play on c3. So sacrificing some material. There's an interesting concept in Crazyhouse where you can use one piece to remove a number of pieces of your opponents off the board in a hurry, such that the pieces you have on the board may actually be enough to organize an attack And here already bishop takes b2 is quite strong because of the knight takes e4 discovery. There's pawn at c3, there's all sorts of weaknesses in white's position. So yeah, here there's options. Main idea being some form of consolidation on the dark squares, but that still leaves options open. So what to do here? Right. I'm actually just going to cover the b4 pawn, I think. I don't mind if he takes this, I've still got knight takes e4. I don't mind this diagonal being left open for both bishops. So pawn at c3 was something to consider, but without a knight to put on a3 and no easy access to a knight, I'm just leaving some more options open. Okay, I'm going to bring this bishop back. And if he chooses to take, I'm going to recapture and play pawn at b4, and that's going to allow knight at a3, which is going to have some material sitting at the end of it. And he can just choose to move the queen, that's fine. So here's where I need to think about how I'm going to attack white's position. I need a rook or a knight or something to keep moving forward. Let's knock this bishop away. And meanwhile, he's going to look to come in on this square. So I just got to look out for some time now. I don't mind consolidating on the king side a little. Alright, I've got to watch the clock. I'll march these pawns in. Okay, we're getting some material, the rook. Yeah, I'm not sure why I used the new rook. Should have used the old one. I think he's going to try to potentially flag me here. Alright. We've got to try to find mate quickly if we can. Alright, I've got him on time instead. Okay. Let's start with knight f3 this game. Right, we'll go into an e4, e5 line. So this will be probably more familiar territory to both of us. So this e4, e5 position is quite standard. And there's not too much on at the moment, but you've got to be careful in these types of positions because a few trades can happen and the king side can open up quicker than expected in some cases. Okay, I'm happy to play h3 here, just try to relieve some pressure on this diagonal. If he takes the bishop, I'm going to need to recapture it. Yeah. So here you've got bishop at e7. Bishop at e7 is an option. I'm just wary. I could get two pieces for the queen. That's probably okay. But I think black will get some decent initiative out of that. I'm going to opt for it though. I'm expecting him to capture straight away. No, he's made a decision to capture this one first. Okay. So now white really needs to decide carefully how to proceed next. Because black can build some momentum very quickly with knight at f4 and knight e2 coming in. So I'm going to opt for this. So black's got initiative. This is a bit of a defensive move. I mean, knight at f6 is a threat, but it's actually more of a defensive move to cover all these light squares. So I expect he'll block. And now I've got to look out for time as well. So I probably have to be creative because I don't have all that many pieces. And if I don't make something soon on black's king, then I'll just be behind on initiative. Alright, time's still ticking. I'm going to opt to alleviate some pressure on the light squares. So yeah, trying to make some inroads here. So I'm basically trying to attack before black's attack becomes too large. And he's defending quite well here. Just keeping my defenses up, but I'm running very low on time. So we've got to move now. I'm running short on pieces. I need to use them in the right way. Bishop takes e5. Oh, hang on. Oh, my time just went there. A bit too slow. I think I was actually alright at the end, but except for the clock. Okay, e4. What are we going to try now? Let's try one of these. Alright, so to manage this a little bit more competitively, I'll try to up the pace a bit. So in this position, I've made a bit of a material grab for some of the central pawns, at the expense of a little bit of king safety, perhaps. Now I need to be careful of what happens on e6. I'm going to get the queen into the game. This serves a few purposes. A bit of attack here, it attacks the knight, possibly attacks e5 later on. Gives the king some room to move. But if he does choose to sack on e6, I'm going to have to commit to a few things. Alright, now. I think I need to commit to... It's not comfortable, but I think I've got to go for this queen g2 idea. I've got to look out for what's going on back at home with the king. This is riskier than I'd like to play. So ideally I'd like to recapture this queen with check somehow. He can avoid that by playing king f3. Oh, he's allowed it. But he's still safe. Now, queen at e7 is coming in. So it's a bit of a sharp position here. I think I need to cover up. So I'm going to cover up just here. He's getting me on this side. Does that actually even help me? Yeah, this I've missed. This makes black's position crumble quite quickly because the counterplay is so limited. This should be getting mated. The queen can get active with queen f3 at some stage, and then it's going to be all over. Alright, so if we're keeping track of score, I think we're now at 3-all. Alright, we're going to make this the last 3-0 game, and then we'll switch over to 1-0. Right, so what's on my mind here is I've got just a little bit of pressure on the dark squares. Black has plenty of cover, but queen d2 is so that he can't just knock me away so easily with h6. I'm actually going to sacrifice this to keep some pressure on the king. And I've got ideas like pawn at h6, maybe there's a pawn at g6. So here what I'm aiming to do is try to make it difficult for him to trade a piece to block this diagonal. If I can get pawn at h6 in, then I'll have some pressure on his king. Now I could open things up and allow a trade of the queen, or rather a queen sack, or I can opt to proceed a bit slower. Because he doesn't really have any potential at the moment. So in playing c3 I can reroute this bishop here. It might be able to open up there. b4 is an option. I think that's what he's covering at the moment. But He's kind of stuck here. It's not easy to untangle himself, so I don't mind sitting on the position. So I'm gonna go for the slow strategical maneuver. Potentially there's also an idea to play Queen H3 and build this up slowly while he's got no pieces to block. So he's played d5, preparing for e4. e5's now something that's also under attack, but he's defended nicely. So what I might now do is come in on g6 instead. And I'm going to play a nasty trick here. Oh, I don't know if it works actually. Queen takes h7 is an option. His king will run up after g6. I think it's better just to take this. His king will land on h5 and he may be safe. In this case I can just push him off the board. I'll go for this one first. Can play d4. I want him to use pawn e4, but he can't block with e4 now because he loses the queen. So it should just be mate from here. Well, queen takes h6 to finish. Alright, we're going to go to the 1-0 section.